All right, gents, welcome to the latest episode of This Is Your Line and Length. I'm your host, Aiden. We're joined with Luke Kelly and today's guest, Chris Russell. How you going, boys?
Yeah, good. Very well. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Kels, how are you?
Yeah, I'm going great, mate. Happy to do this one. Ready and excited for this.
Excellent.
Last week in Wagga, Kels.
It is, yeah. Big move in a couple of days up to Darwin. Can't wait, actually.
Exciting times, mate.
Very exciting.
Before we jump into it, Chris, mate, what are you up to these days?
I'm living in Balgowlah with Taz Lecky, former CSU boy, and Kate, my girlfriend. I work at private practice in physio at Sydney Uni. I've gone back to uni last 2 years, so doing my sports physio course, very slowly, but chipping away at it. And besides that, just trying to keep active and catch up with mates when possible. And life's pretty good. Can't complain.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Kels was telling me that you're preparing for a 50K marathon, something like that.
Yeah, I think I've bitten off more than I can chew, but we'll wait and see. But in December, I had this idea of trying to run this event, which is held in the Blue Mountains in May, and I went to sign up, and because it got cancelled last year, I didn't get a ticket. So I was like, oh well, that's sweet, maybe 2022. Forgot about it, and then had an email 4 weeks ago saying there was a ticket available. And obviously probably would have trained a little bit differently if I knew that was coming, but that's life. So said yes. And so pretty excited about it, but pretty nervous at the same time, which is, I think it's a healthy feeling, kind of keeps me motivated to train hard and see what happens. I think it's going to be a bit of a grind, but get out there and have a crack and see what happens.
Chris, are you doing that with any other friends or anything, or is it just a solo thing for you?
The 50K is a solo, just doing it by myself, but two of my mates are doing the 100, so kind of puts things in perspective.
Sorry, the 100Ks, can you confirm that 100Ks?
Yeah, pretty crook. It makes me, every time I think about being nervous about 50, I just remind myself that they're going to be running 50 more, so yeah, it keeps my feet on the ground.
What mentality do you take into that? What goal setting do you have? Tell me, because I can't fathom that. So I admire people that do.
I think I've always I like being challenged, and I tried a couple of shorter events, a few half marathons and things like that. And I just kind of enjoy training, to be honest, just like exercising and whatnot. So I think once you do a couple of halves and you keep moving the goalposts and keep changing what you perceive as doable. And then last year I was really keen to do a marathon, and obviously with COVID and stuff like that, didn't quite eventuate. And then this year I was like, this kind of event kind of excites us. It's different in the Blue Mountains. It's going to be very challenging, and it should be good. I'm actually generally excited for it. So 9 weeks to go and a lot of training to be done, but it should be good. Just gonna try and get there in one piece and just try my best, I think.
Do you wear headphones? Do you listen to music? Do you listen to podcasts? Or are you just at one with nature? What's going on there?
I'm using music at the moment as a bit of a pick-me-up tool. So if I go for a long run or ride or anything like that, I'll just try and be in my own headspace for as long as possible. And then when I start battling a little bit, I'll try and set all right, I'll run an hour and a bit, no music, and then I'll have the last 15 minutes listen to some tunes as a bit of I don't know whether it's a reward or a bit of a pick-me-up. So I'm trying to stretch it out as long as possible and try and that way on when the race day comes and I get into that third and fourth and fifth, hopefully only 6th hour, I've got that tool to kind of use and kind of help me along the way.
I'm so impressed by that.
I can't fathom running 50Ks.
Yeah, neither can I at the moment, but hopefully that attitude changes in the next few weeks.
How just a quick question, but how do you keep your mindset sort of sharp, I guess, moving forward? You said you're 9 weeks out from this event. How do you make sure that you're still in the right headspace for that as you approach and get closer? Because it's quite a long time. I
think I have to be realistic now that because getting a bit of a late call up, I can't catch up on what I haven't done. I can't change the fact that I've only had 12 weeks to prep. I would have liked maybe 8 more would have been nice. But if I try and catch up, I'll get injured and I won't get to the event. Whereas so I've just got to kind of be realistic, set my own goals, and just like gradually chip away over like, I'm trying to do like 3-week builds and then have a week off, and then just try and keep a level head and slowly progress and get there in one piece, and then that'll give me the best opportunity just to try my best and see what happens.
That's awesome, mate. Well, before we started recording this, you pointed out just behind you that there's a trophy in the corner. That's the line and length one, I believe.
Yep, won by the City boys. How good?
They did. They beat us. They finally got the rights to it.
What does line and length mean to you, Chris?
I think like first and foremost, I think Kel, you should be super proud of what you've created. I think it's an incredible platform for all us people, all us men. I think it's been actually incredible. It's been amazing what you've done. I think also the fact that it's a day of, you know, when you look at it, it's a cricket day. So it's very disarming to a lot of people. People go there with an open mind. And it also then provides a really good platform for meaningful conversations to be had and real purposeful chats to be had, like whether or not they're in front of everyone or they're all tucked away in the back corner at the pub later on at night. I think it also provides perspective on situations. Like people listen to other people's stories and they might, you know, start to kind of realize that how they're feeling is, you know, normal, like what they're experiencing is quite common, and might maybe encourages them to open up, maybe not on the day, but afterwards. Like I know line and length has been definitely a big part of my own like mental health management kind of journey. Like that combined with like Charlie and Gab's Might and Main, and you know other conversations I've had with like a lot of my friends and whatnot over the years. I think like line and length has been a really important part of that kind of development process over the years. So yeah, and it's a really incredible kind of, almost call it organization now. It's pretty it's getting pretty big.
It is getting big, isn't it? There's a few things in the works, that's for sure. So yeah, there's a bit of an operation to it now, but it's all about just, you know, not losing the understanding of why we actually created this, but we want to involve more and more people because that's what we want this sort of movement to be about. Yeah,
I think like one of the most amazing things last year or 2 years now, we had line and length at Harbord. I had a mate who I'd met overseas who was riding his penny farthing from Brisbane to Perth, and
what's that word again? Penny farthing.
Penny farthing. Absurd. Absolutely ridiculous. And he was riding that for his mental health charity, and unfortunately he didn't get all the way because of COVID, but he rocked up. I said, come down on the Saturday, come down to the pub, there's a bit of an auction on, have a few beers, I'm sure, like promote your cause and everyone will get around it. Next minute the boys have put up some of the merch for his own cause, you know, gotten a couple of $100 extra for him. You know, like, that's incredible. Like, it really shows the quality of humans like getting around in the group, and just how incredible that kind of cause is. Like, no one knew him from a bar of soap. Literally walked through the front door at the pub, had a few conversations. Next minute, everyone's putting up this quite expensive merch for him and really getting behind him. Like, I know that meant a lot to him and it meant a lot to us. It really kind of, you know, put all the people we know on a pedestal. Hey, like, shows how incredible all the people we know are.
Yeah, that just goes back to our philosophy, I think, of just getting around people. You know, if someone's brave enough to do something, you just get around them. I mean, it's just what's naturally ingrained in us, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think like you'd be hard pressed to find a more accepting bunch of humans. I think like you look back at all of us from Bathurst, and it's an eclectic mix of humans. You know, everyone's a little bit stranger in their own way, which is good.
I think that also to go there in the first place.
Absolutely. But I think that's our strength too. I think like everyone's a little bit different, and that makes everyone a little bit more accepting of each other. And I think that's a very, very strong part of line and length, and just all the boys as a group in general.
Funny that you bring up CSU. How is it that the two of you got to know each other at CSU? Because you were both on different reses. Chris, you were on towers, and Kels, you were on job with myself.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Chris was actually my fresher in the rugby club. I'm keeping this, I guess, politically correct. What that meant was that I was his mentor, Chris. You could say that, into the rugby club. And yeah, after that first year, I think you got fresher of the year. Is that right, Chris?
I don't know how, but somehow, yeah.
Oh, I must have trained you up well.
You did, mate.
Chris,
You're a good man to me, mate.
Leading into this podcast, Chris, I was just thinking. Do you remember that day? I think what brought us together was in the emergency ward at Dubbo Hospital.
Yeah.
And what happened, Chris? You were playing Colts and you split your head open. Is that right?
Yep.
And
I think Stu Perry's knee with my head.
It was tranny bus trip, and so you split your head open, and we realised you had to get to the hospital. We'd caught a bus, but I actually drove and dressed in a full dress. I had no spare clothes. I drove you to the Dubbo hospital to get stitched up. We waited there for a good few hours, ruined my Saturday. And then there were prisoners there. It was a real mix of people just staring at us.
Just Ryan Bear, Luke Kelly in dresses, me just blood pouring out of my head, and a couple of the local Dubbo people having a good time.
Very eclectic bunch of people.
Yeah, so that's really where me and Chris started 11 years ago.
Yeah, I think Kel, you might have rocked up to that like initiation night or whatever it was a little bit late, and I think I might have been one of the only few people left. I think it was just slim pickings. Like,
well,
no one wants this off cut, so I guess I'll look after him. Hey, so worked out pretty well.
It sure did. Yeah, here we are 11 years later.
That's been good.
It's awesome, and it's good to see that sort of that friendship has continued. Is that what kind of appealed to being a part of the Line and Length for you, Chris? That kind of mateship and camaraderie from Bathurst and growing from being the mentee of Luke there, moving into sort of Line and Length, and you said you brought a couple of mates in there. Do you want them to be able to experience that as well? Is that why you invite them?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I like a lot of us boys. I love my mates, and I think obviously the mental health issues that men suffer from, and a lot of people suffer from, but some men in particular, I think it's very important. I've seen like all different types of people in my life have mental health struggles, and I think the more we can do to like remove that stigma around men talking and accessing services and doing all those things, I think the better. But yeah, I think like hopefully in the next year or so, I get some of my mates from home to also get amongst it. But I think like it's such a powerful tool. I think like Line and Length Cup, I think we can really use it to, get better mental health outcomes for not just our mates, but men in general.
Touching on your mates there, Chris, like a lot of those, I'm fortunate enough to know a lot of them. A lot of them are tradies, builders there on the northern beaches. Have you seen a change in like the normalization around conversations around mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like if you look back to maybe a decade ago, maybe more, I think if you were out on a night out and someone and it used to almost be frowned upon to get in to go off to one side and have like a deep and meaningful conversation or something like that with someone. I think it used to be a bit like, what are they doing over there, kind of having. Whereas now I think I couldn't think of anything better than someone pulling me to one side and having like a real purposeful kind of meaningful conversation about something, irrespective of like the situation, whether you're out or whether they call you up and go for a chat. And I think that's been a big change. I think that perception of how that kind of those conversations are perceived has definitely changed over the years. And I think I've also noticed it's probably taken a little bit longer for my mates from home to start to, open up a little bit more than probably the boys at uni. But I'm definitely seeing like people are being more, respectful of their own mental health and kind of just being more honest with themselves about those kind of things. But I definitely think like just the perception of how we talk about these things has definitely evolved an incredible amount, even in the last 10 years, maybe even a little bit more.
It'd be so good to tap into that, like traditionally hardened, tradies, things like that, where you don't want to show any weakness. If we can start to like tap into that and be like, it's like you can talk about this stuff. I think that would be a huge, I guess, progression forward for us. That's why I asked you that question.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, you say, Aiden. Sorry.
I was just going to say, just show that the actual strength of men is from being able to be vulnerable versus just kind of toughing it out and going along on your own. I think being able to ask for help is an incredibly strong thing to do. So I agree with you there, Kel.
I couldn't agree more there. Hey, like I was having a think about this morning, and like it's so much more impressive, and like people are incredibly brave when they put their hand up and say they're not doing well, or things aren't as good as they may be, like, because men are so good at just burying things and kind of just getting on with it and not wanting to like show any emotion. And we're just like, it's like we're like poorly programmed, maladaptive, like poorly programmed to just fit into that kind of role, where it's so impressive to watch people just like break that mold, be brave, be honest with themselves, and speak up. I think it speaks volumes for their character, and I'm always inspired by that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like there's a real bravery to those people that speak up. I absolutely admire everyone that does it. I can't speak highly of them enough.
Further to sort of mental health, Chris, what do you do to kind of keep yourself in a good headspace, sort of outside of all your sort of training and things like that? What do you do to just kind of keep things okay in your head?
I think like for me, routine's pretty important. Like I like consistency. Like
so do
whether
I,
that
Chris.
be work, lifestyle, those things. I think I try and do something every day, like some sort of activity most days. Doesn't have to be the same thing. Just try and get out and move and do something. I think probably like the most important thing is just having strong social connections. Like I think talking to my friends, like having good conversations, like having good social events to look forward to. I think that's really important to us. Like I think staying connected with people you care about. I think it's also been a really interesting experience for us as I've gotten older, is naturally as you get older, your friends group narrows a little bit. But then a really good thing about our group from Bathurst is you might not talk to someone for a few months, but you just pick up the phone and have a chat, and it's just like you just pick right off from where you last left off, kind of thing. So I think that's really important. And I think also like purposeful work. Like I feel like when you spend so much of your life working, I feel like when I've got real like purpose and I'm motivated to work and I'm working on things, I think like that's also, keeps me on the straight and narrow. And like anyone, it's like hanging out by myself at times, whether that's just getting out on the bike, getting for a walk, just chilling out by myself. It's sometimes nice to reset and kind of reflect and kind of wash away a bit of the head noise.
Yeah, Chris, you said there like about being social and stuff like that. How do you find, and referring back to your training, how do you personally get that balance of training for a goal and then keeping that social and your social health active?
That's, I reckon, it's a huge challenge, and I think it's something you get better at as you get older. Like I think just picking your battles, like knowing what events you can let your hair down and just be comfortable with that. And then sometimes you just have to be good at being social and not having 1,000 beers and staying out late, and you're just going to make sure you don't socially isolate yourself just because you're focusing on something else. Like I think it's important to go along to things. Like it's not healthy for other things just to remove yourself from a situation. And you're not really addressing the issue, to be honest. Like if you just every time that if you don't go along to something because you feel it's going to impair something else, it just creates other issues. So it's a challenge. Like I know, tell me someone I really look up to who's good at this. Rossi is incredible at going along to events and you know, not having any beers or anything like that, and just being there till 1, 2 in the morning, contributing to the night, and you wouldn't even know. And I think I always look at that. I go, that's impressive. Like, being able to stay out late, make sure you're going along to events, even when you're not really, you're in the thick of it, kind of thing. So I think it's just just balance. And sometimes you get that balance right, and sometimes you get it wrong. But you know, just got to keep trying.
It's a continual work in progress, isn't it? That whole balance.
It is.
The social aspect.
It's funny how much that balance has changed since we were all at uni and to where we are now, where it was, you know, burn the candle at both ends, to now where we all kind of sit there and like, oh, I can't actually keep doing this every single weekend or every single night like we did at uni. You've really got to find that kind of nice intermediate sort of result for it.
Yeah, that's
I think
right.
It also makes. Sorry, Kel.
Yeah. You go, Chris. You go. It's your podcast. It
makes those events. It makes those events so much more meaningful too. Like, I think when, you know, you have a couple of chilled weekends and then you got something to look forward to, like, it just, you know, really adds a bit more purpose to it.
Yeah, and everyone's balance is going to be a bit different. Like, some people want more social outings, and others less, and which is fine. There's no right and wrong as long as you find what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Chris, you said that that the social sort of aspect of your life is a great way that you keep sort of your mental health in check. Line and Length itself is a great social event. What would your advice be for someone who was brand new to Line and Length, and they were coming for their first event? What would your advice for them be?
I think it's all up to the individual themselves. Like, some people might come along and be more comfortable just standing back and observing and having a few conversations, where other people, you know, might really want to get in the thick of it and get up and talk. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like, it's not a one size fits all kind of community and event. Like, people can come along and make what they want of it. Like, some people might want to come along and just listen to what other people have to say. Other people might want to engage other people with conversations. And some people might just like it as a social event in terms of catch up with people they might not seen for a period of time. But like, that's the most important thing. It's very inclusive, and it's just such a great platform. You can make what you want of it.
Mate, I think I don't have any more sort of questions. Kels, do you have any?
No, I'm just really impressed with everything that you've achieved, Chris, and all these goals and stuff. I think you're really well balanced, and I definitely just admire some of the things that you do, and I feel like I learn a lot from you. I mean, recently I just hit you up about like diet goals and things like that, and the whole goal setting thing. I just really think you've got a holistic approach to this whole mental health and getting the most out of yourself in life and work-life balance. So yeah, Chris, you're a really big attribute to this whole Line and Length thing, and yeah, loving what you're doing.
I think I really appreciate that, Kels. I think like I can't underestimate how much like the group from Bathurst, Line and Length, all these other things that have been going on have made such a big difference to my own mental health kind of like management. Like, I'm pretty privileged. I'm pretty lucky in the fact that like I run a fairly like 7 out of 10 most of the time. Like, I generally don't ride huge highs and huge lows, but like there's definitely been things over the years which have really challenged that kind of status quo and kind of made us reflect on whether or not the way I was doing things was correct. And just like all these things couldn't have come along at a better time for me in the place I was, to kind of really give me a good sounding board to just develop my own mental health. Like, it's been incredible. Like, it's really made a huge difference for us.
Yeah, it is. It's so powerful to know that you've got a network of supportive friends around you. Like, I speak from this personally, like, to know that network of friends, no matter what happens, will support you, and you don't have to hide anything, is just so innately comforting.
Definitely. I think like when I was younger, I would always keep my cards pretty close to my chest, because I just thought that's what bloke's supposed to do, you know. Just right. I always worried that, you know, other people have problems, and I don't want to burden other people with my own problems, even if how small I might perceive them as. But I think like as you get older, you start to realize like you know, obviously all these other things have helped, but that's just not the way to go about things, I think. Like, I remember if I ever opened up and spoke to people about things when I was younger, I'd have this just heinous oversharing anxiety the next day. like, oh God, what have I done? I've said too much. But I think like the more you talk to people, it's like when you actually open up, even if the issue's pretty minor and you just open up and discuss things with people, like such a powerful like sounding board. I find it gives you perspective on things. Like you might talk to someone about something, even if it's minor, or you perceive it as minor, and you go, wow, like it just opens up your mind to a lot of things. Like I think it's something I've learned, which I never thought I would kind of develop into, but it's been quite the evolution, I think. Like I'm definitely not there, but it's just keep chipping away and kind of working on it.
Chris, you mentioned there the word burden, and that's the exact word that I refer to in my podcast when I said, like, well, Aiden questioned me, so why didn't I speak about my depression and anxiety back in 2016? Why didn't I tell anyone earlier? And I regret this now, not telling people earlier, but in my head, it was that I didn't want to be a burden on anyone. Like, and I look back at that and just go, it was so wrong. Do you have any advice around people that might be feeling that way, that sense that they don't want to burden their friends or burden anyone?
Absolutely. Like through like my own experiences, like my dad had a lot of, or has had a lot of mental health struggles, like probably through when I was at school, gathered a bit of momentum when I was at uni, and then the years on past that. And seeing someone you love very much struggle so much for so long, it made me like, I used to always be kind of embarrassed about talking to people about it. So like I'd never, like most people I went to uni with didn't really know what was going on. I'd just kind of keep it to myself. And that just wasn't, I used to think I was managing things so well. Like I'm very good at putting things. Yeah, I'm very good at putting things in their like little place. I'm like, well, that's uni. I'm just going to go hammer and tong at uni. I'm pretty comfortable with that. All right, that's training. Or rugby. I'm going to rip into that. This is my social life. Like I'm just going to try and be the best version of myself there. And this is my family life, and I'll just kind of deal with that. So I had everything in my own mind split up into little segments, and that kind of, it was like a management strategy for quite a long time. And then like, I think like I realized, I remember having you had a cricket day down in Sydney with my mates from Belrose, and I had a taxi ride with one of my mates, Phil, down in Manly. And I thought I was just on top of everything. And then we started chatting and this and that. And then, I remember it so clearly. It was such a grounding conversation. I was like, far out. Maybe I'm really, like, I'm always pretty stable, but I was like, maybe I'm not managing this as well as I could be. So I started really exploring those things and trying to talk to people a little bit more, and like kind of trying to start being a bit more realistic about how I was feeling about things. And that really started opening up a few doors and started making me a lot more comfortable with that. But obviously the first few times I spoke to people about it, I was just like strucken with like just, oh my God, I've said too much.
But then once it's just not the case, is it?
No, once you start verbalizing things, you're like, and I also used to I downplay a lot of things in my mind. I'm like, that's not a big deal. And then once I would talk to people, like I witnessed a few things over the years, like as you do with people who are struggling. And when you verbalize that to people, you're like, actually, that was probably a pretty big, that was probably pretty important what went on. But you kind of just try and push it to one side and kind of downplay it. So I think like starting to be just more honest with yourself and just like reflecting on how you're feeling at the time, even if you aren't one who rides highs and lows. If you're feeling a bit off and some sort of situation's getting the better of you, just like talk to someone. I think we're pretty privileged, the fact that we've got so many good mates who love to lend an ear and whatnot, and very fortunate a lot of them have lent their ear to me over the years and whatnot. And yeah, it's definitely been a major kind of development of my own mental health management. It's made a big difference.
Yeah, the people around you, as we said, the networking, the people around you is just so fundamentally important, isn't it? Like having quality people around you that you call friends is just the basis, I believe, of good mental health. It just sets the platform.
Something I just want to quickly touch on, you said you were good at sort of compartmentalizing, I guess would be what I'd say, is you put things in different sort of categories or baskets. I used to do the same as well, and I don't know whether you've found this or not, Chris, but like sometimes one thing would overflow and it'd start kind of pouring out into other aspects as well. Did you find the same?
Definitely. I think it's like a strength and a weakness all at the same time. Like I'd be going too hard at something. Like I'd be maybe training a bit too much, and then having that insight to go, maybe you're just overcooking it a little bit. And obviously you don't have that insight at times. You're just kind of going, well, this makes me feel good. This is what I'm going to do. Or uni, like I'll be like, I'm actually doing well at uni. Like maybe I should just go a little bit harder, or work, like take on a little bit more, do a bit more. But realistically, sometimes if you lose that balance, you just start to run away from the problems, which are probably pushing you in those directions. Hey, like I think it's definitely like as I said, like good strength, but definitely can be one of my biggest weaknesses too at the same time.
And finally, I just want to wrap up on the note of you said that when you felt like you were going to talk to people, you felt like you were going to be a burden to them. And I just want to let sort of everyone that's listening know that's generally the opposite of what you are to people. Your mates are willing to listen, or even if they're not, there are services and people that are out there that are things like Lifeline, Beyond Blue, and Headspace are places that you can turn to if you don't feel like you have anyone to talk to. Even just going to your GP and asking if they can recommend you speak to a counsellor is something that something I do recommend doing. And if it doesn't work out the first time, go back to them and just go, hey, I didn't really get a connection with that one. Do you have another person you can recommend for me? Treat your mental health like you would a physical illness. Go and get help with it as much as you can, and use any of the resources you've got around you. Like Chris, you could probably say as a physio yourself, there's many different ways to sort of treat an injury, and one method might work for someone but might not work for another, right?
Definitely. I think it's not a one size fits all, and I think you just don't need, like injuries, you don't need to be completely crippled by something before you start addressing it. Like the earlier you get onto something, the better. Even if it's just opening up, having a conversation with something, flagging something with a mate. I think that's always like nice if someone flags something, or you say, things aren't 100%, like, you've got that support of another mate, or checking in on someone, or, it kind of works both ways. But definitely, I think there's so many good services out there, and accessing them sooner rather than later, I think it's definitely a positive thing.
Geez, that's a really good point, Chris. Really good point about you don't have to be crippled by something until you address it.
Definitely. I think like it's often a thing I see it's often something done very poorly physically too. Like we kind of ignore things until we can't walk, or we're absolutely just beaten down by it. And it's exactly the same mentally. I think we kind of think things will maybe improve, or, maybe how we're feeling is just one off or whatnot. And then, I don't know, just access something, talk to someone, do something. I'm sure that like, if you start speaking to someone and they feel like you might need a bit more assistance, I'm sure they'll direct you in that way. But definitely just, don't suffer in silence. Hey?
Really great advice.
Well, boys, I think it's a really nice place to sort of wrap this up. Chris, thanks for joining us and having this chat. I really appreciate your sort of perspective on everything, and mate, good luck with your 50K run.
Thanks very much. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
We'll be getting you on post run, Chris. You can give us a run through.
Oh, mate. Hopefully I just get it done. But I'll give you a recap in May or June when I'm ready to talk about it.
We look forward to it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for everything you do.
No worries. Thanks very much, Chris. To anyone who's sort of listening, if you want to be a part of this, please feel free to reach out to myself or Kels, and we'd be happy to have you on and have a chat. And it doesn't have to be just about line and length. It's anything to do with sort of mental health. If you want to have a chat about it, or you've got some ideas that you want to talk about, please feel free to jump on. Let us know, and we'll happily have you on for a chat. But that's it for this episode of This Is Your Line and Length. Thanks very much, boys, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, fellas.